This meeting is being recorded, so welcome everybody. And if you're joining live or if you're watching later, what we're doing today is having a look at successfully navigating homeworking. So there's a resource that I produced a few weeks ago, which really started off the whole Thrive Hive, really. And the idea is that it gives you some tips around how to navigate homeworking. So there's all sorts of stuff in there about mental health, productivity, how you engage with children if you have any, physical health, all sorts of stuff in there. So we'll get through as much of it as we can today, and if necessary, arrange another session later. And perhaps it'd be useful if you guys that are here on the call, if you want to say any particular challenges that you're having, if you're happy to share those, so I know what to focus on today.
I don't know, I think for me there's a bit of like miscommunication in emails and things. I think people are getting quite frustrated at home and then misconceiving things in emails, things like that. And I think that's switching between work and home as well. So at the end of the day, not like working till 8 o'clock and then realising it's 8 o'clock, kind of having that structure around it.
Okay, so
yeah, definitely that.
Email is one, and miscommunications, and the other one is kind of having those strong boundaries around when work stops. Is that right, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Any others?
Yeah.
Anything?
I think for me there's it's quite overwhelming in places. The number of emails you get now, like before we got a lot of emails, but now the number that we get is obviously through the roof because that's what people are doing. Actually, that the pressure that can make people feel, as Alex says, to either look later or the just next to your inbox saying so.
Is Karis breaking up for everyone? Or
what have you can make people feel pressured, or that's the thing for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to go inside then.
Yeah.
I thought I could do this outside. Hang on.
You need good Wi-Fi for this.
Yeah.
Yes. Hang on. There we go. Ooh, indoors.
Indoors.
There we go. Ooh. Oh, hang on.
I think I got the question. So basically, too many emails and people getting overwhelmed. Is that the gist of what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. It's just by the sheer number that we get now.
Yeah. Okie doke.
Yeah.
Righto. And anything further from yourself, Marcus?
For me, not well. The last couple of days, we haven't been able to get on our system because we're all using. It's called Citrix, so it's like a database platform that everyone's kind of tuning into using from the laptops, but it's been down, so I've not been able to do anything. I've just been kind of waiting for it to get fixed, and then it comes back on for an hour, and then it's off again. Other than that can be sorted. It's just, I think, working from home in general every single day, and if you don't kind of prepare your day as if you would do if you was going to your actual job, like getting up at 6, 7 or whatever you would do, it doesn't go the way it would do if you did do that. So it just kind of makes it, I think because you're in your own environment and you can just go in the kitchen when you want, you've not got anyone breathing down your neck, hopefully.
Yeah.
It can, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's not as there's not as much pressure there, so I think for me, it doesn't make me want to do as much work as I would do if I was sat in the office.
Yeah, so kind of motivation, structure, and getting yourself into that workplace mindset. All right.
That's the one.
Okay, great, because I've got tips on all of those things.
Brilliant.
Well, happy days.
Don't make anything up on those. So I'll start off with the emails one, because Alex and Karis, you both brought that up, and I know, Alex, you need to get off at 7 o'clock. So I totally resonate with that from my time. I've spent many years working in offices and used to get overloaded with emails. And there seemed to be no kind of magic bullet here, because quite often the employees would complain if they weren't told about stuff. So the managers were always saying, oh, well, I'll make sure I share this with you then. And they then start sharing everything and then copying everyone into emails. So you end up getting absolutely flooded by stuff. And then if they didn't do that, people would say, well, how come I didn't know about that? Why didn't you tell me? And then getting all uppity about it. So totally understand, it is very difficult to manage. And the tip that I've put around this in successfully navigating home working is, wherever possible, instead of using emails and text messages, do something like this. Do a conference call, do a Zoom. And what I think is good practice, if it fits in with the kind of lifestyles and jobs that you have, is to have a brief check-in meeting at the beginning of each day with the line manager and their staff. Could only be 5 to 10 minutes, just to say, right, what are today's priorities? Has anyone got anything urgent that you want to bring up? And quite often you might find that there are people who are working on the team who've got the same kind of questions. So rather than sending an email to everyone, which probably is only relevant to 10% of the people, and the other 10% get it, but they're still overloaded with all sorts of other stuff, so they might not be able to see that message clearly. Just have a quick check-in, 5 to 10 minutes, via Zoom or Skype, whatever you're going to use, in the morning, and then at the end of the workday as well. And you can also use that as a kind of general well-being check-in. If you're a people manager, just find out, how are people coping? What challenges are they experiencing? What support do they need? And that can maintain connection and maintain a bond as well. So I think by doing that also, it's showing a human side. For me, any kind of electronic communication is pretty faceless, and it loses something in the translation. So this comes back to what you were saying, Alex, about misinterpreting written communications. There's no tone of voice. There's no facial expression in an email. And somebody might type something and think, oh, I've got a very clear idea of what I want to say in my head. But when it's typed out, it could be misinterpreted. It could be looked at in different ways. The tone is a little bit off. So if you do have to use email, what I'd say is reread it as, put yourself in the position of the person who's going to receive it, and reread it with fresh eyes and think, okay, does that actually get across the message I want to get across? Could I soften it a bit? Could I add some praise in there? Could I change the tone? But if you can avoid emails altogether, or minimize them, and switch that to telephone calls or video calls, I think that would be really helpful. Like I say, these check-ins at the beginning and end of each day. So how does that sound? Is that something that might be viable for you guys, Caris and Alex?
Yeah, I think so. Like we do check-ins in the morning, but we could definitely look at what we do kind of later on. We're trying to be quite flexible at the moment with how people, like the hours that people work. So if people have, obviously, do people have childcare commitments, for example, and they're having to juggle that as well as working from home, I don't really want to limit them to like a normal working day as it was, because they might not be able to do that. And we have the flexibility now, like you say, with things like this and systems that you can log on to at any point. We have the flexibility to let them, if they need to look after their kids between 1 and 5, but then can log on later and do a couple of hours work, then we want to be able to do that. So it's what we can make work for the team. But I do like the idea of kind of like making sure that we check in on a regular basis.
Yeah, stuff. Yeah, and it's great that you've got that flexibility as well. You're allowed to fit things around their schedule. So it may be that a morning and evening check-in isn't bookending the day like that isn't going to work for a lot of your staff. So maybe you can offer kind of one-to-one check-ins.
Yeah.
Just offer some slots in your calendar and say, book in 10 minutes with me whenever it suits you. Something like that could be handy.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else around that? Is there anything that I haven't covered from that issue, Alex and Karis, that some more tips would be useful on?
No, I think it's one of the issues is obviously the number of emails that you get from other people as well, and you can't really control that. But I guess that ringing them, if rather than replying to the emails, maybe if you just ring them, it stops that email trail essentially, and might kind of encourage them to stop just sending emails as well. So that's something I'll try.
Yeah, and again, from my time in office life, I quite often, if I had the option, rather than replying to an email, I would just go and see the person, the next office along, and then just have a conversation. And you can achieve so much more in a 3 to 5 minute conversation than you kind of bouncing emails backwards and forwards. Plus, you've got that personal touch, you're connecting with someone. Obviously, you can't do that at the moment, but a phone call or a quick Skype call could actually save time and build up that bond as well.
Yeah.
Another tip that's just come to my mind is around urgency of emails. So you can set, whether it's urgent or not. You could also come up with some kind of code, so that in the title of the email you could just have it as an FYI for your information, or act now, or urgent, or some kind of code. You could do red, amber, green, whatever it is. So people can prioritise which ones they need to look at and which ones might be to file for another day and that type of stuff.
Yeah, the only difficulty is it's not just the team kind of respect each other. I think it's the external emails that then you get through where it's actually a non-urgent query, but that person will mark it as urgent. But yeah, it's out of our control. So
that's the thing, isn't it? And you'll know from your mindfulness training that all of these things that are out of our control, we just kind of have to accept, I suppose, and manage it as best as we can. I suppose if you are feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work, the amount of emails, then practicing those mindfulness skills can be really useful. So just on that note of how we work during this time, another tip that I've got in this resource is about, first of all, focusing on one thing at a time. So if you're working on an important piece of work, maybe turn your emails off whilst you're doing that, and work in bursts of, I would recommend 45 to 60 minutes. So it's like a school lesson. I think about my kids at school, they can't concentrate. Children generally can't concentrate for more than an hour at a time. So there's a reason that most meetings are in for an hour, most school lessons at secondary school are no more than an hour. So work in that focus burst, turn everything else off, turn your phone onto silent, turn all notifications off, focus on this thing, 45 to 60 minutes, get it done, and then have a break. Get yourself out of your chair, move around, drink some water, do some star jumps, whatever you want to do. Just take 5 to 10 minutes, go outside into your lovely garden, enjoy some sunshine, and then come back and refocus, and whether that's the same task or you move on to another task, or you spend 5 minutes checking your emails before you move on to the next thing. Personally, I find that a really useful productivity tip. I used to be a bit of a slave to my phone and emails. Whenever they ping, I'd be like Pavlov's dog, going, oh, right, I've got to sort this out. And, there's a lot of myths around multitasking. People say, oh, I'm a really good multitasker. I can do all these things at once. And it's true that we can multitask, but we can't multi-focus. Every time we switch from one task to another, whether that's writing a report and then going to an email, something shifts in our brain and we lose our focus. And it takes us time to get back into the focus of that important job that we're working on. So, I think it's really good just to focus on that one thing, turn everything else off, and maybe you blitz your emails for half an hour in the morning, you blitz them for half an hour at night, and during the rest of the time, don't look at them. Or if it works, if you've got more urgent stuff coming in throughout the day, do like 5 minutes every hour on them. So we work for 45 minutes, have a 10-minute break, and then do 5 minutes on emails. It works for me. So maybe try it out, see if it works for you guys as well.
Yeah, I do like that idea of having a bit more structure
Yeah.
around prioritised things. That's helpful,
I
thank
think,
you.
yeah, I think the issue that I found with that is I have like my periods of time seem longer that I can either concentrate for or get distracted for. So I find like if I get in a zone, I kind of stay in that for about 3 hours or something and just take full advantage of it, but I'm not having them breaks. So if I'm doing the shorter breaks, I kind of get more trained to do that, or will I completely lose? Because I'm just worried that I then go out of that being in the zone and come back and then I'm distracted again.
Yeah, good question. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest, Alex.
Yeah.
I think everyone's unique. What I
Yeah.
would say is if you are focusing for 3 hours, that's really good. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
But if we are sat still for 3 hours staring at the screen, it's perhaps not great for us physically and mentally, because I know the other day you were sharing that you weren't super comfy in the chair you were sat at, and it is good to have a break from a break from the screen for our eyes, and just to move around, move the body. And personally, and there is some science behind this as well. When we are, I'll start that again. So creativity-wise, when we need to do something that requires inspiration, creativity, writing a report, whatever it is, responding to something in a creative fashion, stopping working is the best thing we can do a lot of the time. So I don't know about you guys, but I get a lot of my best ideas in the shower. When I'm not, I'm not on my phone, I'm not concentrating on anything else, I've just stopped. And I suppose I'm in this kind of mindful space. And this is where ideas come to me. I think, oh, brilliant. It all just flows. So similar when I'm out on a run, stuff comes to me because I've stopped thinking. So it may be different for you, Alex. It may be that, by concentrating on your work, that works best for you and you get a lot done that way. But you might find that maybe just give it a go, just work in shorter bursts with that movement and that break away from the screen, change of scene, get a bit of greenery, fresh air, have a drink, whatever it is. And during that time, when you stop, you might find a solution to something, a problem that you've been wrestling with, or some creative idea might come up. So works for
I'll
me.
give it a go. I'll report back.
Be interested to see how you get on with that. Good stuff. Okay. Shall we move on to the next thing, or is there anything else around that that you're struggling with, folks?
No, I think that was everything. Thank you.
Okay, good stuff. So, Marcus, should we move on to your kind of structuring the day and getting motivation around getting into a workplace mindset?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, what I'll do, I'll try and share my screen so you can see this resource. There we go. Right. Can you see this resource now? Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okie doke. Right. So I've just highlighted some key bits here, and I think this first one is probably relevant here, Marcus, to what you're talking about. Can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's starting the day is a really key part to how much you're going to get done in that day. You can set yourself up into that mindset of, yes, this is a work day, or if it's not, it might be a half day, you might just work for about 4 hours or whatever. But the way you start the day really sets the tone. So what I'd say is, first of all, sleep is crucial. So if you can maintain that circadian rhythm of going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, even if you don't need to, if you've got no appointments or anything until midday, if we're still getting up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, your body gets into that rhythm, and you'll probably feel more energized and focused. What I like to do is start the day with meditation. I probably don't need to bang on about that because you're kind of in that space already. But I find that really useful for focus and calmness and compassion and resilience and balance, just getting perspective on stuff. And what I'd say is get yourself ready, washed and dressed as normal. So if on a normal work day, you'd have a shower, get dressed, have your breakfast, then start work, just keep that same routine. Any kind of routines that you had when you were going to your place of work, maintain as many of those good habits as you can. And whilst you are working from home, it's really good if you've got the space to have a dedicated workspace. So it might be tempting to sit on your sofa with the laptop on your knee, but that's not going to be best for your physical health and also for being, again, in that mindset of work mode. So if you've got a desk that you can use, set up your computer there, clear the space, make it a pleasant place to be. Put some flowers there, some photos of your loved ones, whatever it is. Decent chair, get yourself in a good posture, and there's some guidance there around health and safety of how to set yourself up. And that's pretty much it for that one. Physical health, we'll skip that, but basically what I want to talk about is water. I think what I found when I used to work from home one day a week, and when I was at the office, I'd be constantly going to the water cooler, drinking plenty of water. Every time I'd go out and see someone, I'd get another drink of water. And when I was at home, I wouldn't be in that habit, and I'd get dehydrated, and that can affect your productivity, your brain dries up. So I now have, here we are, a drink beside me all the time. I try to drink 2 litres of water a day, which is the recommended amount for adults. So I'd recommend that, and consuming food mindfully, snacking isn't great. So yeah, if you can go out and get 30 minutes of exercise, maybe either bookend your day with it or put it in the middle of your day to break it up. That's really good for the endorphins. And again, like I say, when I go out for a run, I get loads of creativity, loads of ideas coming up. There's different things there around fitness classes and stuff that you can go for. Okay, so this is a key one, routine. Our brains love structure, and it's very easy when we're working from home to fall out of that structure. So maybe this is a little bit where your challenges are at the minute, Marcus. So having set times, having a set routine each day and each week. So at the weekend, treat that as you would your normal weekend. And if you normally work Mondays to Friday, keep that as your work days if you can. Having set times for work, meals, rest, exercise and play. It's important that we still play and we don't just get sucked in to doing work 24/7. If you've got kids to manage as well, you can co-create a timetable with them around when they're going to get their rest and their exercise and their creativity and when they're going to have their bursts of doing their schoolwork. If you used to have a commute, you no longer have a commute. So congratulations, you've just won some extra time. So you can use that time, like I say, to bookend the day with some healthy practices like meditation, going for a run, doing an online yoga class, whatever it is, Joe Wicks. Use that time like it's a game. It is a game. And again, if you've got the kids there with you, model good working practices to them. So when you are working, act like you're in the office. And you don't have to get dressed up in shirt and tie if that's what you'd normally wear, but be in work mode and show them that that is what we need to do when we're doing our work. Just going back to what I said earlier on about working in these bursts of 45 to 60 minutes, it can be handy, especially if you're not terribly disciplined, to have a timer. So whether it's your phone or your oven timer or whatever it is, set that timer for 45 or 60 minutes. And when it goes off, that's your cue to get up and move around and have a bit of a break. At the end of each day, this was a tip that I gave on our call the other day, is have a little post-it note and write down 3 things that you want to achieve on your next day. So this is your priorities. And they could just be small wins. They don't have to be 3 massive projects, but 3 things that you really want to get done the next day. And it really feels good to tick those off and say, yeah, I've done that. I've achieved those 3 things that I wanted to do. And anything that you get done on top of that feels like an additional achievement. So at the end of each day, put those on your sticky note, put it on your computer, And those are your priorities that you need to address first thing the next day. So the other thing that you mentioned earlier on, I think it was you, Alex, that said about having a healthy boundary. You know, you get to 8 o'clock at night and that needs to be the end of the day. So whatever time you choose to be the end of your work day, make sure it is. Turn the laptop off completely so that you're not tempted to, oh, I'll just send that other email, or I'll just go and check if anyone's replied, or have that healthy boundary. Say, do you know what? I've worked for 8 hours, 10 hours today. I've done enough. It is now me time. And if necessary, you know, to turn the laptop off and lock it away somewhere and just don't open it until the next day. Similarly, if you've got work emails on your phone, maybe consider turning those off until the next day. Or, you know, if you can, if you've got 2 separate phones, one for work, one for home, turn the work one off and don't look at it until you start work the next day. And with devices in general, science has shown that the kind of blue light that they emit is really bad for our sleep cycles. So any screen, whether it's your computer, your phone, your television, the advice is turn it off at least 1 hour before you go to bed. So have that wind down time away from screens, doing something you enjoy, you know, listening to music, reading a book, whatever it is, that doesn't involve screens. That will give you better quality of sleep. And if you can, leave your devices out of your bedroom so that you're not tempted to look at them during the night. If you do wake up in the night, or if you're just going to bed, checking your emails again, I know I've been guilty of this in the past. Leave it out of the room and get an alarm clock, just a little £5 cheap alarm clock to wake you up in the morning rather than relying on your phone. Leave your phone to charge downstairs, wherever it is, away from your bedroom. That's a really good tip. Any questions on that section around routine?
Oh, that's really good, that, Paul. I can take all that.
Good stuff. And then I suppose the next one, which is pretty relevant here, is about productivity. So again, you know, when we're surrounded by our peers and we've got our managers sitting across the way from us, and we might feel, oh, I've got to get this done, got to get this done. There's pressure there, and that brings us motivation. And when we're at home, we might not have that pressure. We might not have anyone checking up on us, or we might just have our manager, you know, giving us a call once a day or once a week to see how we're doing. So we could slip into being not as productive as we would be if we were in our normal working environment. So again, try and embed those productivity habits that we have when we're in the office. Covered these already. Prioritization. So yeah, that sticky note, that's got your 3 urgent tasks on for the day. Beyond that, like I said on the call we had the other day, have a longer list of things and maybe use a highlighter to highlight the ones which are your priorities. And again, it feels really good to tick those off once you've done them and not get distracted by the tasks that are not important or urgent. Always focus on urgent and important first. If you can imagine, there's, I forgot who came up with this model, but there's like a four sectors. So at the top, you've got urgent and important, and then you've got urgent but not important, and then you've got important but not urgent, and then not urgent or important.
Is that Jim Rohn, that? One of Jim Rohn's models of...
I don't remember, but yeah. Basically, anything in that bottom right box, just bin it. Don't even bother putting it on your list. It's not important, it's not urgent, so why would you do it? Concentrate on that top left box first, and then the urgent but not important, you've got to think, okay, well, maybe I can delegate this to somebody else. If it isn't important, delegate it. And if it's important but not urgent, say, okay, I'm going to do this, but this is for after I've done all of my priorities for the day. So that's your kind of second thing to go for. And then having these goals, realistic goals for each work period. So by work period, it could be that 45 minutes to an hour. It could be a morning, it could be a day, it could be a week, however you want to set it out. But set realistic goals. And it feels good to overachieve. So don't say, right, today I'm going to get these 27 things all done, because that's not going to happen and you might feel bad at the end of the day. So just have realistic things that you can achieve. And if you overachieve, that feels really good. This one I really like is buddying up. So I think this is especially important where we're not in an office environment, when we're lacking that interaction with our colleagues and our peers. So if you've got someone who is kind of the same level as you, who is happy to act as a buddy, what you can do is check in with them at the beginning and end of each day and say, right, these are my priorities for the day. This is something I'm struggling with. This is something I could do with a bit of support on. And then at the end of the day, you check in with each other and say, how have you got on? Did you manage to get those things done? And you can kind of motivate each other, give each other tips around how to get over the tricky stuff. And it gives you some kind of accountability as well. Especially if your manager, for example, is too busy or otherwise engaged to do a daily check-in with you, having a buddy who's on the same level as you, there's no kind of pressure of, oh yes, I must get this done and you're going to get a whipping if you don't. It's more of a support system around, okay, what are you trying to get done today? What is there that you're struggling with that I might be able to help you with? So yeah, having that accountability really helps with motivation, I think. So yeah, we talked about one task at a time. Yeah, and this one is about having a bit of compassion for yourself, because normally if you're in an office or whatever for 7 or 8 hours on a normal work day, you will not be doing 7 or 8 hours of work. You just won't. There's meetings, there's lunch breaks, there's going to the water cooler, having a chat about the football, there's, having chats with people, there's time for, where we have these downtime where we check our personal emails and all that type of stuff. Even going to the loo. There's nowhere near 7 or 8 hours of work that gets done on a normal day. I would say probably it's more like 4 to 5 for a typical person. So don't set yourself up with the expectation that you are going to work solidly for 7 or 8 hours each day, because that's not what you normally do. So just give yourself a bit of a break and say, well, yeah, if I was in the office, I'd be wandering off to go and see Charlie and have a chat, or I'd be having a bit of fresh air, or, even people who smoke might be going out for cigarette breaks. So just be aware that 7 to 8 hours of solid work is probably unachievable. So give yourself some flexibility and brain breaks as well. Now, do any of you guys suffer from a kind of energy dip after lunch?
Yes.
I think
that was me. I said yes.
Pretty normal. Pretty normal. And I think, again, this comes in with our circadian rhythms. And I think the Spanish have got it right here. They have siestas, don't they? They have a big meal at lunchtime, and then we try and digest our food, and we go and have a siesta. We're not set up to do that in our country, but it is a natural flow of our energy. So what I'm suggesting here is to have some kind of movement after you've had your lunch. If you're feeling that dip in energy and you've got the flexibility to be able to do so, go for a walk, go for a run, do some star jumps in your garden, whatever it is. Have a protein snack, something like that. Or just have a break. Even going for a little snooze, a 15-minute power nap, can really boost your energy for the rest of the day. So don't feel guilty about saying, I'm feeling really worn out, I'm just going to have a little sleep. And again, science has shown that if we do that, we wake up. It's kind of 10 to 20 minutes is the optimum time to have a bit of a siesta, power nap, and it will come back feeling refreshed. It's not a full sleep cycle. Sometimes if we do a full sleep cycle during the day, we can feel pretty lethargic afterwards. A little power nap, go for it, give it a go, or do the movement thing in the fresh air. Yeah, and again, just being compassionate, taking some time to adjust to these very strange, unprecedented conditions that we find ourselves in. It does take time to adjust to working from home. It takes time to adjust to the anxiety of this situation and the strangeness of it. So don't expect that you're going to be firing on all cylinders straight away. It's just, we haven't been here before. We need to give ourselves the time to adjust to it. Yeah, so bonding with your peers. Take some time to chat to people. Again, don't feel guilty about having a phone call with someone, having a Skype with someone, bouncing some ideas around, saying, oh, I'm struggling with this, or how have you managed to cope with all these emails, whatever it is. Phone someone, have a chat with them. It's important that we maintain that connection. You think about how many interactions you'd have on a typical day with clients or in your office environment, and most of that has gone for a lot of people, I think. So if you're able to replace that face-to-face contact with some Skyping, some telephone calls, it's important that we're not isolated on our own for most of the working day. Okay, who's a procrastinator?
Me.
Awesome.
Yeah, if it's a nasty task, yes, me.
Yeah. There's another term called precrastination as well, which is me. And precrastination is where you got a big nasty task, like I have these essays and stuff I have to do for college, and I put them off and just tick off all the little easy jobs first.
That's me. I'm a precrastinator.
Okay.
Do the easy bits first.
Yes. Again, a very human thing to do, very normal. But again, if we can think about that box, those 4 boxes, and try and focus on the urgent things. And quite often, the thought of the big nasty task is worse than the task itself. And when you get started, it actually can be really rewarding and enjoyable to get you into it. So one way of doing that is getting the big nasty task and breaking it down into small chunks. So rather than thinking, right, I've got this 10,000 word report to write about this week, say, right, well, today my target is to do the introduction, or today my target is just to write 1 page, or whatever it is. Break it down into manageable chunks and say, right, here's chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3, plan it out of how it's going to go, make it into a mini project, and do each one as a separate task. That way, it doesn't feel, at least to me, it doesn't feel like a massive task. It feels like 10 small, manageable tasks. So the brain is a lot better at being able to cope with stuff that it feels is manageable. And that's why we can quite often think, oh, well, there's this nice, easy thing, replying to that email or just doing this little task. And we get drawn towards that because it's quick and easy. So turn the big stuff into quick, easy wins. And then before you know it, the big task is actually done. My other tip around that is that procrastination and precrastination can be a sign of perfectionism. So I won't go massively into perfectionism at the minute, but there is a separate resource which is available. It's on the Thrive Hive, and it's also on my website, pathlight.org.uk. You can download that for free and just have a look at all the tips around perfectionism there. And trust me, it's written by a recovering perfectionist, so I know what it's like. I know it's horrible. A lot of people think that perfectionism is actually a positive trait, but it can be a bit of a curse. So hopefully you'll find that useful if you can download that. Okie dokie. So next thing, moving on. Is there anything else, Marcus, around motivation, productivity, getting into the work mindset that I haven't covered there that might be useful?
No, there's nothing else I can think of from what you've said. I think just setting up the day at the beginning of the day will work, and just kind of committing to that.
Excellent. Yeah, setting up the day, it gets you into that mindset. Certainly gets me into that mindset anyway. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so the next section is about staying connected. And I think this is absolutely crucial at the minute. You know, we are social creatures and we're missing a lot of our social connection. And if we do isolate ourselves, and especially if we're a bit of an introvert, we might be tempted to do this and just box ourselves in and not communicate with other people. And I think it's really great for motivation and energy, and also to allay any potential anxiety and depression, mental health issues, to stay connected as much as we can. So, like I said, frequent communication with your peers, your manager, teachers at school, if it's to do with kids, and your family as well. And what I'm hearing is a lot of people are doing this. They are feeling more connected to their friends, family, and even neighbours as well. I think that's great. So using the video calls, like I said, the short check-in and check-outs. Also, virtual cafe breaks. So again, you know, I suppose most people, when they're at work, would go and have a tea break at some point, and they'd see some of their friends or peers there. And generally, I think people would talk about non-work stuff. And I think it's good to be able to give your brain a break from work stuff and do that. I'd encourage you, if you can, just to take a few minutes in the morning, lunchtime, and in the afternoon to talk about stuff that isn't work with your peers or your friends. And as part of doing that, to foster positive relationships and bond with your colleagues, showing appreciation, showing gratitude for work they've done. So this isn't just for managers. You know, if you have emailed someone and asked them to do something for you, whether it's within your organisation or an external one, and they've done it, they've delivered on a small task for you, just a quick phone call to say thanks. It'll boost their mood, it'll boost your mood, it'll make you feel more connected. Nice quote there, be kind whenever possible, it's always possible. Kindness breeds kindness, it builds that connection, and you know, just by thanking someone, it's going to make them more inclined to help you out again in the future as well. So everyone's a winner. So I've covered that tip earlier on about emails and texts, being mindful about that, and if possible, replacing those with telephone or Skype calls. And then finally, fun stuff. So I don't know what your workplaces are like, but when I used to work in an office, we'd always have social stuff going on. And at the moment, we're not able to connect in that way on a Friday night or whatever, but there's no reason that we can't set up something like an online quiz. You know, kitchen disco, whatever it is that you want to do, competitions, exercise-related targets. You know, there's this 5K run thing that's going around at the moment. So I'd encourage people, whether you're a manager or not, to set stuff like this up, to build bonding, have a laugh, and keep that kind of personal contact going outside the work context. And that's that one.
Paul, I'm going to have to dart off now. I've already gone 15 minutes over how long I should have gone. But thank you very much. I'll watch back on the recording later on. But it's been really useful.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. Thanks, Alex. Enjoy your...
All right. Talk to you all soon.
See you later, Alex.
Bye.
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 Okie dokie. So this one, do either of you have children at home at all?
No.
No.
Okay, I will skip through this section then and maybe cover that another time.
Well, if I could talk about my inner child now, I'm only joking.
It's a very important aspect of it, yeah. I'm going to skip this bit as well on non-violent communication. I think it's really useful for everyone, actually. This is Byron Katie, the work.
All right, yeah, she's good.
Separate session on that, which I think is just brilliant for everybody, for positive relationships. So I'll skip on to the mental health one. So yeah, I'm a big advocate that mental health is just as important as physical health, and we need to look after it like we look after, you know, we exercise our bodies, we look after what we put into our bodies. We need to do the same with our minds. So positive strategies, daily relaxation, whether that's yoga, mindfulness, meditation, whatever works for you. Avoiding making assumptions and catastrophizing, judging or blaming others. That's a relationship thing as well, but it's also bad for our mental health if we get into these kind of negative thinking strategies. Get outside into nature. Again, science has shown that the more time we spend in green spaces, the better it is for us. And there's a recent study that came out that says we need 2 hours a week of being in nature, being in green spaces, and that will give us a positive mental and emotional benefit from doing so. So when you have these daily exercise, daily trips out for walks or running, whatever you do, get into nature, get into greenery as much as you can, commune with the trees and the animals and whatever, if you've got some reservoirs or whatever near you, it is going to have a massive impact. Prioritise what brings you joy. So again, this is about at the end of the workday and during your breaks, do stuff that you enjoy, whether that's making music, having a massage, dancing, having a bubble bath, reading, whatever brings you joy, make time for it. Make time for yourself. There's a really good resource, 5 Ways to Wellbeing, which I'd recommend having a look at. Give, connect, take notice, keep learning and be active. So all of those things are, again, proven to improve connection, improve mental health, and be really positive for our well-being. The way I like to look at us as human beings is having these kind of 4 domains. There's a physical domain, so looking after our bodies, our minds, our intellectual space, so we need to look after and take note of our thoughts. There's the emotional aspect, so really connecting to our feelings, honouring those feelings and expressing them. So, you know, if we've got any anxiety around the lockdown, if we've got fears around how long it's going to last, we might be feeling angry, we might be feeling grief, let's give vent to those emotions, express them in a safe way, either with a trusted friend or by journaling or through meditation or whatever it is that floats your boat. And then the other aspect is the spiritual aspect. So again, do something, whatever your spiritual practices may be, get into a daily practice of yoga, mindfulness, praying, whatever works for you, to make sure we're connected to our souls, our higher selves, our gods if we have them, and keep in tune with that. So maybe spend 5 to 10 minutes each morning is what I do, is kind of check in with all those 4 aspects and make sure I'm getting balance in all those areas. So yeah, journaling. Just been on the phone to my mum actually, who's having a tough day today. So I've recommended to her, do some journaling, get the emotions out there. Gratitude is a really good practice for mental and emotional well-being. So this is something that a lot of people recommend at the end of each day. Just write down 3 things that you're grateful for, and try not to do the same 3 things each day. Try and do perhaps 3 things that you've been aware of in that day. So today, for example, it could have been, I'm really grateful for the sunshine. I'm really grateful for the garden. I'm really grateful for the time I had with my children, whatever it is. And that gives us the positivity, because we're hardwired for negativity. We need something like 10 positive things to outweigh every negative thing that we think about. So if we can focus on that at the end of each day, that's going to boost our well-being and help us sleep better as well. Lots of tips here around managing anxiety. So anxiety is normal, it's a normal response, but when it becomes something that's disproportionate, it can impact our mental health and we may become unable to cope with it. So there's various tips here around smiling. So even if we're feeling really down, really anxious and overwhelmed, even a fake smile will send the endorphins, those good feel-good chemicals, and make us possibly even do a real smile after a short period. And then we might even laugh, and that's really good for us as well. Positive affirmations are really good. Sleep hygiene, pardon me, I've talked about already. If you've got any friends, family, colleagues who are potentially suffering from some kind of mental health issue, you can offer them empathy and active listening skills. So validating their experience, telling them it's normal to feel this way in this very unprecedented situation, and then ask them how they would like you to support them, rather than advising them. People don't need advice. They just need someone to hear them, to validate them, and to support them in the way that they need. If anyone has any panic attacks, try square breathing. So that is to find something, wherever you are, there's always something which has 4 sides, square or a rectangle, whether it's a picture, a window, a book or whatever. And what we want to do is try to breathe in for a count of 4 as you look along the top edge of the square thing. Breathe out for a count of 4 as you look down the side. In for 4 along the bottom, out for 4 along the other side. And just do that nice and slowly, regulate the breathing. That brings down the fight, flight, freeze response and gets us more connected with our bodies, calms us down. We talked about control earlier on, like more than 99.9% of the things that happen in the world are out of our control. And that can make us feel really anxious. But if we can be a bit mindful and just accept that we can't control all of that stuff, how many emails we get from external people, how long this lockdown is going to last, all that type of stuff. Focus on the things that you can control. And a good way to do that is meditating with equanimity. So there's, what's that called? Insight Timer is one of the apps that I really like for mindfulness and meditation. And you can search for equanimity meditations on there, which is just basically being okay with how things are, accepting things rather than trying to feel uncomfortable with them. And then just psychoeducation, so learn more about mental health for yourself and to support others. There's various ways of doing that. There's loads of free resources on Pathlight Thrive Hive. There's things to download on my website as well. I'm offering online half-day mental health aware courses at the moment, and also workplace wellbeing programs. So if there's anything that I can support you with, other than the resources that are already there for you to download, then do get in contact and I'll see how I can support you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on mental health stuff?
Oh, that's
No.
you've hit the nail on the head there with all that.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's a bit of a whistle stop this. I do realise I'm speaking a lot faster than I thought you would. I've just got one eye on the clock and trying to get through as much as I can here. Yeah. So the next one, this ties into the guest that we had in the Thrive Hive yesterday. Sharish is a research journalist, and we were talking yesterday about how news and media consumption, whether that is the television news, websites or social media, can have a negative impact on our mental health. And some strategies here around media rationing and using media in a mindful way. So there's a bit of a conflict here, I think, because earlier on I was saying stay connected to your social network, stay connected to your peers. I think it's really important to do that, but there's also the temptation to get a bit addicted, to start scrolling through social media and scrolling through, all the things that people are posting, some of which may be catastrophizing, fake news, all that type of stuff. So it's about finding a balance between staying mindfully connected with people and actually not getting sucked into the rabbit hole of endless scrolling. So I'd say stick to trusted sources of information. Don't be sensationalizing, spreading gossip, speculating on what things might be, or taking any notice of conspiracy theories and stuff. They may be valid, they may not, but it isn't going to help your mental health if you're feeling anxious because of all these different theories that you may or may not be exploring. You might actually enjoy it, in which case carry on. But if it's not serving you, then bin it. So when you are communicating in any way, I'd suggest just be sensitive to your audience, the needs of others. So it may be, if you post something on social media, it may trigger somebody else's anxieties. And I know I kind of did this myself inadvertently the other day. So I am trying to be more mindful about what I share and maybe putting some kind of trigger warnings in there to make sure that people aren't going to be made to feel increasingly anxious by me opening up about my own vulnerabilities. Notice how the news makes you feel. You might find that you like being informed by the news and you want to stay connected to it and you feel empowered by knowing what's going on in the world. If so, that's great. But if you check in with your feelings before you've watched or read the news and check in with them afterwards, if you think, actually, I'm feeling more anxious, more stressed, more depressed now, having watched the news, then you might want to take some kind of defensive measures for your mental health. You might want to restrict your consumption of the media. And a good tip from myself that Sharish echoed yesterday is to have set times where you do it. And what I'm suggesting is maybe do it twice a day for 10 minutes, maybe once in the morning and once in the evening, not just before you go to bed, because we're having a 1 hour curfew before you look at any screens before bedtime, But if you can just set a timer again for 10 minutes, say, right, I'm just going to check what's going on, see if there's any more advice from the government or other trusted sources, anything that I want to catch up on. And when the timer goes off, that's it. You start work, you leave the news, and then maybe check in again for 10 minutes in the evening. So yeah, avoid the endless scrolling, curate your media consumption carefully. If there's any social media feeds or news accounts or people that you find are negatively impacting your well-being, cut them off. You know, just mute them, unfollow them, unfriend them, whatever you feel you need to do to keep yourself safe. And this isn't advice, this is just a potential road you might want to go down, is avoiding the news altogether. Now Cherie said yesterday that doesn't really work, being the ostrich, a bit head in the sand. It's not going to be particularly helpful because it's a kind of denial. But again, if we accept that we're out of control of 99.9% of what's going on, then are we actually learning anything useful from the news? Is it going to affect how we act in any way? If the answer is no, then maybe just don't watch it, don't read it. I suppose the only health warning around that is that you do need to know government guidance and stuff around when we can, when the rules around physical distancing and home working and all that type of stuff is going to be relaxed. We need to know that kind of stuff. So that's that one on media rationing. Any comments or questions on that?
No, I have to say I found media rationing to be really helpful. I don't watch the news every day now. I do it every sort of couple of days and try to catch the summaries rather than huge segments of the news, and that does help.
Good stuff. How do you find that helpful, Caris? I'm aware enough to make sure that I'm up to date with what the government guidance is, but at the same time, it means that the news at the moment goes on into all sorts of, different stories and scenarios, and actually, some of those, either they make me cross, and you can feel my blood pressure, or they make you sad or they make you upset, and it's not very helpful because there's nothing you can do about it at this time. Most of us are doing all of the things that we are within our power to do anyway. So I find it helps because I don't feel it's sort of a head in the sand, but I'm not winding myself up by listening to the news. And it's the difference between if there's something, if there's a breaking news alert that happens, we get a notification through. But if it's just, huge news stories about sort of different sensationalized sort of things that are going on across the country and across the world, the thing that I find difficult is not being able to do anything about them, and therefore I try to limit the amount I expose myself to them. Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, it isn't necessarily an ostrich thing. It's just about looking after yourself, and all those emotions that you talked about there, Caris, that can come up. You might feel annoyed or powerless or anxious or stressed, whatever it is. I mean, those are all very normal emotions to be experiencing in this very abnormal time. And again, yeah, just to share the phone call I had with my mum earlier on, she's feeling all of that today. Yesterday she was fine. And it is, again, I think, about having a balance. And yeah, I suppose we need to protect our well-being, protect our mental health, but also not deny those feelings. We need to validate those feelings. Say, do you know what? I am feeling angry. I am angry that people are not following the social distancing rules. I am angry that this response to the crisis isn't what I wish it would be, and I am feeling sad that I can't connect with my friends and family, and that's all normal. So again, finding a healthy way to express those emotions rather than push it down in a way that suits you, whether that's journaling or talking to someone or going to counselling, whatever it is a healthy thing, because the more you push down, it isn't going to go away. It is just going to come back in a big way in the future. So yeah. Okay, let's move on. So hygiene, I'm not going to go into, I don't think, because I think this is all common knowledge now.
Yeah.
What I would say for those that do have children, there's a few people that have been saying, my children don't understand what's going on, or, you know, I've not told my children. And again, I'm not here to advise you, but the way I operate with my children is to share openly in an age-appropriate manner. And I think by doing that, you're giving them the information, you're empowering them. And I think there can be more anxiety around uncertainty if we don't talk to our children or other vulnerable family members who might have elderly relatives who may have dementia or something like that. I think the more we can explain to them in a way that they understand, it gives them the tools to be able to cope with it and build resilience more. So that's my way of being, and it works for me and my children. It's up to you whether you want to follow that model or not.
Well, I'm going to head out. I want to say thanks very much. I've got a lot out of it, and yeah, because I need to get my walking before the sunset goes down. But yeah, thanks very much, and I'm going to be in touch anyway soon.
Yes, good stuff. Thanks for joining, Marcus, and enjoy your work.
Speak to you soon.
Take
Nice
care.
to meet
See
you.
you soon, Marcus. Take care.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so the last section is about seeking support. So I'm a big advocate for talking about mental health and general well-being, and also for asking for support. And I think generally as a nation, I don't know if it's the British stiff upper lip or this independent blitz spirit that we have, but we aren't great at asking for help. And quite often we put this brave face on and we try and juggle all these balls, and eventually they all come crashing down. So what I'd say again is talk to people, friends, family members that you trust, to offer some empathy. If you've got a mental health first aider at your workplace, or an HR department, or an EAP, Employee Assistance Programme, then do use them, talk to those people. There's also, you know, if you don't want to do it through your workplace, there's lots of mental health helplines out there, such as Samaritans. Reputable charities like Mind offer a lot of free support.
Yeah.
And the helphub.co.uk are currently offering free 20-minute counselling sessions. There's various other organisations that have been set up since the pandemic kicked off. So just do a search, see what's available in your area, and do seek that support. There's another resource that's on the Thrive Hive and also on my website, which is a signposting resource with loads of different reputable places to go to and videos to look at and meditations and all sorts of things on there with links to those, and pretty much all of them are free. So you can download that, and those are categorized according to mental health issues or your particular support needs as well. So that's all in there. And this whole resource, Successfully Navigating Home Working, is available to download again from the Thrive Hive or from my website, pathlight.org.uk. It's free, donations are welcome, but yeah, I'd like to get it out there to as many people as possible. So do feel free to spread the word amongst your network, get them into the Thrive,
will do.
get them to download this, and the more the merrier.
Lovely, thank you very much for that. That was really helpful.
Good, glad to hear it. Is there anything else, Caris, that you need any support on? Anything that you feel I haven't covered?
I don't think so. I think we've covered quite a lot, and certainly I want to go away and have a read, and maybe a think. So I might come back to you with some further questions.
Yeah.
But no, it's been really helpful. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, glad you got something out of it. And yeah, do feel free to share this with everyone in your network. And if you need any support, you got any queries or whatever, just send me a message or an email, and yeah, I'll do what I can to support you.
Lovely. Thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, and you too. And thanks for your attendance.
No worries. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.